I am Amy Castle from the Activities Association, and I have come today to do a short presentation on mental health for our student athletes. So this is something that we see occurring much more frequently than we used to, especially post-COVID. Students talking about a desire or being compelled to change schools because of a situation at the former school that seems insurmountable. So we want to talk to you just a little bit today about the different things. We're not asking you to be psychologists or to be able to evaluate in any way, but we do hope that we can provide some helpful things for you in terms of recognition in your student athletes or fine arts students as well, and help us to get through this and help our kids as best as possible. So brief and very much an overview, not meant to make you any kind of doctor. So you may not put PhD behind your name because you attended this session, but hopefully you will be better equipped. So true or false questions for you. Limited sleep has a moderate relationship with mental health challenges. That is false. Sleep is 100% responsible for good mental health. Now, it's not the only element, but you just think about yourself. When you're tired, when you're stressed, when you're feeling overworked and you feel like what's in front of you is just really difficult, sleep is a great remedy. That's a great place to start in terms of gaining mental health. Now, the only data that I had to pull from was for collegiate level athletes. They haven't surveyed high school athletes or junior high athletes. We have no data from the secondary level. I'm certain that they are collecting that data now that this has become more prominent, but all of our data is going to be related to the collegiate athletes. So almost 2/3 of college athletes felt their teammates were more attuned to their concerns about mental health than their coach. Unfortunately, that's true. So that's what we're going to do today. We're going to learn to do better in terms of listening. Self-reported mental health concerns overall are lower now than 2020, but still higher than 2019. So this would be before COVID and after COVID. It's true, we're lower now than we were when we were in COVID, but we are still above where we were prior to the pandemic. 50% of both male and female athletes reported feeling overwhelmed. That's false. 45% male, and look at the female rate. 72% of females feel overwhelmed with anxiety and stress. So what are the things that we should concern ourselves with? Well, first is certainly an understanding, right? And I am not a neurologist, I just read. So my understanding is that our brain develops from the back forward. So the front part of your brain here is the last thing to develop. And it's not until we're 25 years old that we're finished with that process. So why does that matter? Why does it matter how your brain develops? Well, I will tell you it's because of what happens in different parts of your brain. So your cognitive function, so your ability to know right from wrong, your ability to have some level of discernment, that all happens earlier. Your ability to reason abstractly, that happens earlier. Your memory and your ability to plan things in a formal manner, that all happens earlier. But what comes much later, which I think is going to make great sense to you, is that the brain that controls the capacity for our impulse reaction, our ability to control that impulse, our ability to make decisions that make sense based on the reasoning that we developed earlier, none of that's there yet. We're 25 years old till we're able to do that. We are through college before our brain develops completely. That matters and should give us some insight into why we see some of the behaviors that we see in our adolescents. This is just, I charted this for you, and you have a copy of it in the packet. This is just a chart that shows you, not surprisingly at all, the increase post-COVID in anxiety and how kids were feeling. And quite honestly, we are focusing on the student athlete here because that's what we do collectively, but put yourself in these categories as well. Think about yourself. There is a high stress level for those of us that choose to coach. We are sleep deprived because we choose to coach. We are anxious. We are stressed. We are so responsible. We wear so many different hats. It's completely normal and okay for you to feel like you also are at your wit's end, perhaps. So all of these things that we're going to talk about today are things that you can use to help yourself. So we've got this, these standards here, okay? So we know, we believe in what we do, right? So this is what we do. We believe that education-based activities and fine art activities make us better able to cope with situations that may cause stress. We know that. That's why we do it. That's what education-based activities preach. We do this because we know that in the long run, it's good for you and your kids, not only from a physical wellness standpoint, but emotional and even perhaps spiritually. The challenge here is that we have a wide variety of geographic areas, especially in Oklahoma. There's a lot of difference between rural and urban and those in between. And our cities aren't even all together. So McAllister, for instance, that's a bit, southeast Oklahoma. McAllister's a pretty big place, but it's surrounded by places that are much more rural. So the challenge is accessibility to activities that we know are good for our kids. But can we get those programs to our kids because of where we are geographically? And then the opportunity for us as school leaders is to provide this development, to build this character, to build these commitments to our school. That's our opportunity. So everybody, you got to have a strategy, right? Everybody has a strategic plan. Our boss is talking to us about a strategic plan right now. We need to update that. We need to set our goals and points that we're going to reach this particular goal, or at least strive to reach this particular goal. So with mental health, mental wellness, we also need a strategic plan. So we've got to partner with others to provide educational resources and opportunities. We've got to continue to minimize the risk for these mental health related issues that are arising, and we got to collaborate. We must collaborate with one another. So in understanding wellness, so let's talk about this for just a moment here. Wellness is an active process. So you see that word there. It is an active process through which people become aware and make choices toward a more successful existence. So what does that mean? It means that we don't just stand by and hope that we don't feel stress. We are actively involved in the process to try to meet our goals, to reduce anxiety, to provide an opportunity for us to meet our personal goals and our full potential. So there's two ways to do this. It's a conscious effort. It's a self-directed effort. Nobody is responsible for my mental health but me. And I need to do what I need to do by being an active player in the process. Holistically, you've got to encompass lifestyle, and mental and spiritual well-being. Spiritual well-being doesn't have to be religion, but it's a good place to go for that. But also just a place where you find self-worth, where there's something bigger than you. And in the kid's life, something bigger than the kid. And I will tell you this, more times than not, you're going to be that person as their coach. You are going to be the person that's something bigger than them, and they are looking to you for stability. So this is a model of wellness, and this is not mine. This is a nationally recognized model of wellness. So we can see that intellectual and occupational wellness are addressed. And then we add in activities, and we add in the element of physical wellness. The spiritual component is just relating to the fact that there's something bigger than us. We tend, when we're in the years of 7th through 12th grade, we tend to be a bit egocentric. We're thinking about self. We're trying to make everything better for us. And I would submit that if we spend a little more time and attention trying to make sure that not only are we okay, but those around us are okay, it would help this spectrum considerably. Social and emotional wellness, as we just discussed, that is deliberate. You have to work on that. You have to work on social and mental wellness. It's our responsibility as humans to work on ourselves with that regard. So exploring the dimensions of this, what we're talking about, the social and emotional spectrum that we're looking at. So these are just things, same guy, 1989. These are the things that he thinks we need to focus on. And I am going to take a little time here because this is so important in healing and being well. If you don't need to heal, at least maintaining that mental health. So self-acceptance, especially being the gender I am, probably more so than the male gender, we're so dang hard on ourselves. My hair's wrong. She's cuter. She's thinner. Her pants are better. Everything about her's better than me. We have to stop this. Here's what I say to my friends that say, I am so tired of gaining weight. I'm fat. And I will say to my friend, stop talking about my friend like that. We have to stop this behavior. Don't let girls or boys self-deprecate. Help them to learn to accept themselves for who they are as they are. That is fundamental to being mentally well. Positive relationships with others. We need warm, satisfying, trusting relationships. And we need to care for one another, and we need to care for one another. Two different things. Autonomy, we need to be in charge of ourselves. We need to feel like we have the autonomy to be who we are, to be independent, to grow in ourselves as we need to grow. Environmental mastery, this is a tougher one. So you need to feel confident where you are and in your environment. And I will tell you this, in the hardship waiver process, this is what we see frequently. I'm not comfortable here. I don't like it here. Kids are mean. I want to go to another school. And when they're in that other school for 10 minutes, they love it. Everything's great here. We hear it all the time. Everything's so much better. You know what? There's still books. There are still desks. There are still teachers and pencils and pens and computers. It's just different walls. It's different people, but you have the control over how that works. That's what we've talked about, right? So it doesn't take long before we've moved to that new space where we're really happy, and I don't think you probably have to be told, we become unhappy there. We're not happy there either. That's not the space. So we need to help people to learn to cope with the environment. Our purpose in life, you have to have goals. You have to have a sense of direction. You have to know that there is a meaning beyond what you are currently doing, okay? I will tell you, I was a basketball coach, and there wasn't anything more important to me than basketball season and what we were going to do next. I was just telling someone outside, I listened to the Texas Tech women's basketball coach for a few minutes, and I am so glad I do not plan my life every 7 minutes. But that's what we do as coaches, right? We're scheduled, we're dictated, a bit inflexible at times. Understand that there's more beyond what you do on the court, the field, whatever your surface, the pitch, whatever your surface may be. There's more to you and there's more to life. And you need to, you should teach your kids, teach your student athletes the same thing. There's more to it than what we're doing here. You're going to get a better performance. I really believe that. Your kids will perform better if they're healthier inside their heads. And then personal growth, of course, just an openness to new experiences and things that may happen. Here's another chart for you. So this is the American Association. This is a psychology association. This is just a graph that's in your packet there, which you can take a look at it. Just if you are low functioning due to anxiety, then there's a significant disruption in almost all aspects of your life. And then you look at the high functioning, virtually untellable. Mental illness, again, college athletes, because that's where we have the data. 10% of college athletes with mental health symptoms ask for help. 35% of college athletes say, at some point, I hit a wall. So we talk in terms of NFHS and the rule books that you're provided every year. We talk a lot about risk minimization. It is the whole point of a rule book. The Spirit rule book exists to minimize risk. There's not one rule in there about how to run a competition. It's about health and safety. And I will tell you, every rule book is written with that same premise. We're always considering in the rule writing process, does this minimize risk? That is the number one priority in writing rule. A great example of that is data shows that the highest rate of ankle injuries, basketball injuries in general, occur from rebounding. Makes sense, right? So a rule was written this year to minimize rebounding opportunities with a change in free throws. Okay, so early detection, here's how we can minimize risk in this space, okay? Early detection of the challenges, mostly look, listen, and ask. Reduce stigma as much as possible, meaning this isn't, if a kid rolls their ankle, there's no stigma associated with that. But if a kid is feeling a lot of anxiety and stress because something happens at home, I flunked my algebra test and I can't hit a free throw to save my soul. All of those things have a stigma to them, right? We have anxiety, we have stress. We all go, yeah, like buck up, buddy, right? That's a stigma we need to reduce. And then who are your providers? Who can help you? And here are the key elements. Look at your kids. If you see a difference, ask them what's going on. But don't say, are you okay? Don't do that. Ask them questions. What's going on today? And then listen to what they say back to you. Hear it, listen to it. Untreated mental illness, it's the same thing as being hurt and not knowing it. So a kid has a torn meniscus, they continue to play, knees kind of bugging them a little bit, but they keep going. Okay, there's no stigma with that. This is the same thing. You just can't see it. So how can you help? Check-ins are such an easy way to help these kids. You know these kids. You probably spend more time with these kids than their brothers or sisters. As their coaches, you spend so much time with them, right? You're practicing, you're playing games, you're team bonding, you're doing car washes, you're doing a million things with these kids. You may notice things before a family member notices something because you do spend so much time with them. And you will be able, hopefully, be able to see changes in behavior. So just check in and you see one. So a check-in is simple as, hey, Trinity, how's it going today? That's a check-in. That's all you have to do. How's it going today? What's going on? What are you doing? The thing you shouldn't do is ask them, are you okay? Because they're going to say yes. You want to ask a question that promotes a conversation. What's going on, Trinity? How's your day? Encourage expression. So you want your kids to show you what's going on, right? This is pretty self-explanatory. And then reframe and redirect behavior. So when you see something, so what's the first thing someone under stress is going to do? Well, you're going to see an altered behavior, and generally that altered behavior is not like positive. You're going to see something negative probably come out from someone that's feeling this kind of stress. So reframe, redirect, ask the questions, and then just say, hey, let's think about it this way. Let's reframe this for you. Let me help you. Okay, academic awareness. So this is every bit as important as the rest of what we do, so the mental wellness, because I will tell you that probably a good percentage of the time it has to do with school, with I don't understand, I need help, but they may not seek help because they need to be where you need them to be at the time you need them to be there. And so this is the thing they're going to let drift. This is the easiest thing for them to let drift until they can't play anymore, right? Stop that. So let's help them find balance. And I would say the same is true for you as coaches. Help yourself find some balance between what you're required to do, what you want to do, and what you like to do. Find some balance. Provide opportunities to create separation. So I know it's important that you practice every day at the same time for the same amount of time. But I will tell you that there's a guy in our office that won a state championship in basketball, in probably the most difficult classification in girls basketball to win a state championship. And you know what he does with his kids, or did with his kids? He gave them breaks. It's not important that we're here every day all summer long. It's not important that we practice 2.5 hours every single day. It's not important that you spend the entire weekend in an open gym to shoot the basketball. That's not as important as your balance in life. And that was successful for him, and that was successful for him for a lot of reasons. I will tell you the number one reason: he had no chemistry problems, because he isn't forcing these kids to spend every free moment of their free time beyond what he was requiring for them to be together or to be working on basketball. So he allowed that autonomy. He allowed that self-motivation. He allowed that space for kids to figure out how to do everything they wanted to do. And then, of course, you've got to provide a support system for your kids. You know, help them to find the counselor they need to talk to arrange time with the teacher, or tell them to go arrange time with their teacher to get better. So how can we support this? Continue to having the conversations. Make sure that you are not shut down to the topic of, this is hard. It is so hard to be a kid. It is so competitive just to be a kid. We are always measuring ourselves against one another. Who has more? Who has better? who does it better, who looks better. We're always measuring that. Continue conversations. Help them to appreciate who they are. Find some resources within your school and find some way to offer some proactive support. Don't just let this happen to you, and don't just let this happen to your kids. When you see something, you know the adage, when you see something, do something. Same is true here. And in doing that, you're going to have to collaborate. And so these are just a few quick ideas of people that you can loop in. So if you have the luxury of having an athletic trainer, that's a great place to go to make sure that there's nothing physical that's causing some of the issues with them. Use family as support, use other teachers, use other medical professionals, school administrators, just whomever you can find. This is not a single man, woman fix. This is going to take all of us. And we're not going to fix it. We're not going to fix it. But what we can do is we can recognize it, we can acknowledge it, and we can treat it like we would treat any other injury that we may have on our teams or in our lives. Emotional health, it isn't about being happy all the time. Nobody's happy all the time. Our emotional health is defined by our ability to understand what's going on and to be responsive to our emotional experiences. And that is true for you, and that is true for your student athletes. So our wish for you is that you have a happy, healthy, successful school year that is not measured by W's and L's, but it's measured by the relationships and the people in your life that pour into you and that you have an opportunity to pour into. You are in such a unique position. You have one of the greatest opportunities to influence kids in a positive way and to help them deal with the things that are coming your way. We are so very grateful that you came to be with us today, and I hope that something came out of here that you can take away that's tangible and can use to have a happy, successful school year. Thank you so much for being here.